Welcome to ViviTalks. I'm Vivienne Aerts. Join me in celebrating 100 talented female musicians from my last album, type of thing. Empowering female cacao farmers in Congo's Virunga State Park and restoring the rainforest. Delve into the musical journeys, creative processes, and unique perspectives of these talented women that were involved in the making of this album. Tomoko Omura is a composer, violinist, and educator. Named #1 Rising Star Violinist by Downbeat magazine's Critics Poll in 2021, she has released 6 albums as a leader. Branches Volume 2, 2021 was named Bandcamp's Best of Jazz 2021. She has been featured on major publications including Grammy.com, WBGO Jazz United and the Pulse, Strings Magazine, Jazz Sessions, and AllAboutJazz. Originally from Shizuoka, Japan, she started violin under her mother's instruction. Almost quitting the violin in her teens, she discovered jazz when her brother was listening to Kind of Blue by Miles Davis and fell in love with it. She moved to the US to study at Berklee College of Music and relocated to New York after to pursue her dream of jazz violin. She became a mother in 2020 and is living in Brooklyn with her son, her partner and pianist, Glenn Zaleski, and her cat. She is a faculty member at Jazz House Kids, leading the new string program. Listen to our conversation as we talk about how she discovered playing jazz on the violin, the way she finds inspiration for her compositions, and balancing her arts life and motherhood. Welcome, Tomoko, to my official ViviTalks podcast. It's such a pleasure to have you here. You're in Brooklyn, right?
Yes.
I think you're very close. I'm on 99 Ocean
90. Oh,
near Prospect Park. Yeah,
the jazz dorm.
yeah, the jazz dorm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm up on Washington. So yeah, it's very, very close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
For starters, and for my audience, I love to learn a little bit more about your background, where you're from, what do you do, and what brought you to, where you're now.
Yeah, I'm from Japan and I grew up in Japan until 23. So I was already an adult person when I
And
moved
where
to the States.
in Japan?
In Shizuoka. Yeah, it's where Mount Fuji is. It's
Cool.
in the central Japan. It's a very peaceful, very beautiful place. And then I started violin when I was 4 because my mother taught me violin. She's a classical violinist and also teaches a lot. So I started up with her and I kept on going, and I was doing youth orchestra and stuff like that. But I was also doing other stuff like playing piano. Actually, piano was my maybe more favorite than the violin. And I also did a Baroque recorder. I was pretty serious. I wanted to become actually a recorder player, playing Baroque music. And I was giving concerts when I was high school students with local musicians. And I also loved doing percussion. I was in the marching bands, and I loved practicing like paradiddles and stuff like that. And violin didn't seem so natural to me. That was the most difficult instrument. And also I was fighting with my mother. You know, she was very difficult. Like she was tough and, you know,
very
you're not
strict.
good. Yeah.
Oh,
you don't practice. I'm gonna throw away your violin, and you know, I really had a tough time doing the violin practice, and you know, I practice at home, and she would open the door. That note was flat, or you know, something like that. You know, Mom, I'm just practicing. Just let me do it. You know, so there was a struggle. So I almost quit playing the violin when I was a teenager. My brother was also doing violin, but he quit the violin long time before I did. And then he was listening to jazz at the time at home. And one day I came home and hearing this amazing music that I've never heard before. So I ran into his room and asked what it was. And he said that was Miles Davis' Kind of Blue. It's kind of like the classic story. Like, I think a lot of people actually entered jazz from that album, but that was Kind of Blue. And I thought it was, oh, wow, I've never heard music like that. And I was so intrigued. And I started listening to jazz and collecting the jazz CDs, from the local shop and whatever I can find at the time. And then sometimes I would get like pretty obscure albums like Miles Davis On the Corner, or like very different from Kind of Blue. But I was exploring listening to jazz, like very different kind of jazz. And I loved it. And at that time, I didn't know that I can play that music on the violin. So I just kept listening to it and maybe thinking about playing them on the piano or saxophone or something like that, And then when I entered the university in Japan, they have this student activity that does jazz. It was called Modern Jazz Society. And it's run by the students, and they don't have any instructor or teachers. They just learn jazz together, and practice on their own, and then do performances together. And it's pretty serious thing in Japan. A lot of people actually become professionals from that.
Wow. But it's a conservatory though?
No, it's not.
Wow.
It's just a academic.
So everybody's like doing like science or literature.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah,
this is their hobby
economics.
outside of their studies together with
Exactly.
other. Wow. So what did you study then? Did you go to, did you?
I wanted to become a psychologist. So I entered the university, but the first year they do the interview and essay exam to go to this specific department. And actually I didn't get in by the interview. They failed me. And actually the psychology professor interviewed me and said, what are you doing for the club activity? It's, but I was doing the Modern Jazz Society. So I told him, I'm doing Modern Jazz Society. And he said, oh, you're probably better off doing that, or something like that at the interview. And I was so shocked because I wanted to be in the psychology department, but for some reasons, he thought that I was not good in that department and doing better doing music. I don't know.
Wow.
But now I'm here doing music, so maybe he had a right idea.
But they did have a music program available that you could then enter.
Yeah, okay. But only education.
Oh.
Yeah, so I did so I needed to choose one category that they have. So, and the music was pretty easy to enter. So I just wrote, okay, my second choice is music education. So I entered the program, but I was a very bad student, and I didn't attend the classes.
Oh no!
I skip often and just stayed in the Modern Jazz Society room and practicing.
How rebellious of you!
I was very, very bad. And then I was reading jazz magazines and learning the licks. I would John Scofield feature or something like that. So I was doing that from like all day long. And also I was working at the cafe at the university. So where the professors come. So I would just show up for the work, like, at noon or something, and then working at the cafe, but not showing up to the class. And it was very bad. Not that I didn't like the music education classes, but I didn't see myself being a music teacher at that time. Now I'm actually teaching music, to children and adults. But at that time, I just wanted to become a psychologist, and I my heart was broken because, yeah. And so I just skipped the classes, and then, yeah, listening to jazz all day and practicing and trying to figure out by myself. I was doing self-taught thing and learning the Omnibook by Charlie Parker and all this stuff.
On the violin.
Yeah, skipping the university classes. Yeah.
But then how did you proceed? I mean, most people skip their classes and they just go to a bar and be drunk, right? But you were skipping classes and then super ultra focused on jazz instead.
Oh, yeah, I don't, yeah, you could say that. That's a nice way to say it, I guess. Yeah.
But maybe jazz education was not really available in your university, right?
Right. That's the thing. And then I found out that some of the people from the Modern Jazz Society went to Berklee College of Music. And then I found out, there's this amazing music program that I could go to, but it's in the States. I don't speak English. What am I going to do? And then this idea is always small, but, like, it gets bigger and bigger. And I really want to go, but I don't have money. So I was working, several part-time job and trying to save up money, and I graduated the university actually on a music education. I have a bachelor.
So they let you pass.
Yeah. I think the professors
maybe it
were
was
nice.
just too easy for you.
No. Just yeah, they were nice to me at the end. But I went back to my hometown and living with my parents for 1.5 years to save up some rent. And I had several jobs, like from the morning to night, washing dishes and sometimes teaching violin, but mostly like part-time job, like waitress and stuff like that. Saved up money and did a world scholarship audition by Berklee. And I convinced my parents that if I get the scholarship, I would go. But if not, I wouldn't. So, and then I got one. So they were against me going there, but finally they gave up to let me go. Yeah.
And how old were you then? Like you were like 20 or 21?
No, later, way later. 23. Yeah, because I graduated from the university.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, when I moved to Boston, I was 23, and I didn't speak English well, and just jumped right in, not knowing how difficult it is to kind of get going in a country where I don't speak the language well.
Well, everything is different,
right? Then I had a belief in music. Like music, you don't need to speak the language well, because maybe some musicians do the music because they're not very good with words. Like the music speaks better, And then I felt that way about myself. So, okay, I don't have to like be a great speaker to pursue music. So I just, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So you went to Berklee, and then did they have they do have a program where they also teach you jazz, right? If even if you're on violin, or was that still in
Berkeley? Yeah, the string department now it's very big.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I think it
know.
used to be very small, but it's just expanding continuously. And um, yeah, I met a lot of interesting string players who are still friends, really great friends of mine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fascinating program. I
Yeah.
think Berklee, I still teach at Berklee. I went to Berklee in 2012.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and then
I
in
missed you.
2000, yeah, I think you
Yeah.
were just a little before me, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and then I sticked with them. I've been working for
Mm,
them since 2014, or yeah, 15.
yeah.
Yeah, they're big. There's 7,000 students now.
7,000.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's really cool, but it's
Yeah,
big.
it is big.
Yeah.
Um,
So
but
what do you remember studying there, or what's your what did you do performance, or did
yes,
you do composition?
performance. Yeah. Um, I did a lot of things. It was overwhelming. I always had the biggest backpack and it's got all the books, like the Jerry Bergonzi's book,
Oh
and then
yes.
in the Berklee, the harmony and ear training. I learned a lot. Like every day, I stayed in the practice room, which was 24 hours open,
Yes.
right? So the first year I lived in the dorm, um, and I had a roommate in my room, um, who was very, very kind, Phoebe. And I learned a lot from her, how like English, like how to speak, basically.
Mm,
She helped me a lot. But then also I stayed in a practice room and tried to figure out the permutations of pentatonics, things like that. And I often get confused what the homework was at the beginning because I didn't speak very well. And I was also afraid to speak up at the time.
mm,
Like I didn't understand or something. And then teacher would say something that I don't understand. And then I was too afraid to even ask the questions. I just guessed so hard what the homework was. And then I just do all the work and then just submit it. I don't know. It was a very difficult time, but also a very, very exciting time. And I didn't skip any class that time because I was such a bad student in Japan and the university. But here at Berklee, um, I didn't get the full scholarship. So partially I was paying with the money that I worked really hard
mm.
for. So I didn't miss any class. And I attended all. And it was a very great feeling.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
And then you graduate, and so did you move right away to New York, or did you take some detours, or what happened after you graduated?
um, I joined a world music band
Mm-hmm.
in Boston. So I think I was with them for 5 years. But so the first year after Berklee, I stayed in yeah, one more year I stayed in Boston, and then traveling United States with them. Sometimes on a van, like long hour drive in New England kind of thing. Sometimes I slept in a car, things like that. It was a really interesting touring experience. It was great, and went to like a world music festival or folk festivals, and I would be the only Asian person in a festival. Like yeah, it's very American experience to me that time. So I learned a lot from touring around. And then I had to do the visa for myself. So after the college, you have F1 student visa, you have to switch to usually O1 visa for artists, right? So I needed to do that. So I actually, it was OPT. It's called OPT.
Right.
It's a gray area, but you can work like anything that time, work for anything. So I actually was a waitress in a sushi restaurant on Newbury Street in Boston. And I had a specific number of money that I needed to raise, like something like 5,000 or something like that. So I decided
for the visa.
Yeah, for the visa, the lawyer.
Yeah, it's so expensive.
And also I was recording my first album that time, so it was a little more than that.
Right,
that I needed to raise.
Musicians and the studio and
right. So I did the sushi waitress, and also I was teaching some violins, and also I was doing some like house worker kind of thing, like where I would show up and do laundry and clean the house and cook the Japanese dinner for this Japanese family while they're working, kind of thing. Like I did anything to make money. And then and then the composing at night. And I was living on a tiny place. It's a non-profit women organization on Newbury Street called Bethany Union. And the rent was like under 500 a month.
Wow.
Yeah, and they serve breakfast and dinner. But I had a roommate in my room. So
cozy.
that kind of situation. But I needed to do it to raise money, so I did that. And then everything happened. So
So I'd love to hear a little bit about your creative. Because that first album came out that's probably 10 years ago, maybe.
No, actually, my first one was 2008, I think. Long time ago. Right, that was right after Berklee.
And you enjoyed that? That was for orchestra or small band, or tell me a little bit more about what you write.
Quartet, violin, piano, bass, and drums.
Yeah,
it's all original, dedicated to each composition to jazz violinists that I liked that time. And then after that, I moved to New York. Finishing the album and getting the artist visa, moved to New York. And it took some time to create the second album. The next album was 2014.
Wow.
Yeah. New York is intimidating city.
It is.
It took time for me to adjust and get situated and figure out how to pay the rent and all this stuff.
It's so funny that you say that, because I published an album in the first semester of Berklee. That was in 2012. And then my next album, and that album was my second. So that was in 2012. And then I graduated, moved to New York, and then I had to do a new album, but it took forever, just like you. My last album came out just now, like in 2023. So it took 10 years for me to finally settle in New York and say, I'm going to do my thing, even though I know I have to pay the rent. But I need to squeeze in my project. That's so true. New York takes time to just find your way, right?
Right. But I think that the journey is important.
Yes.
And I think I couldn't record an album like that for my second album if I didn't do that journey. Yeah, if I stayed in Boston or went back to Japan, it would be completely different music.
Earth.
I'm not talking better or worse, but yeah, I think it's okay to take time to create a work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because nowadays you would feel like you need to be making constant work all the time, like every year or every 1.5 year or something like that. But to create something that's really speak to you, it takes time.
Yeah, that's right. So
Takes
describe, I'd love to hear about what did you do in all these the first years in New York? What experiences led to what you do now?
The first year was very difficult. I was in Jersey City.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And then you
have to take the bus.
Well, luckily there was a fast train.
Oh, you take the fast train. Okay, yes.
Yeah, but it's not really hard to get to Manhattan, but no one wants to visit you.
Yeah, there's big water between us.
Somehow, I don't know why, but and not so many people moved from Boston at the same time with me, so I had only few friends, and a lot of people left, and so I would go to like jam sessions at Fat Cat or like wherever I can find. But violin is such an obscure instrument. It's really hard to like go up to the stage and can I plug into you? Like if there's a guitar player, I hate to ask like, oh, for my solo, can I play? Like it's sometimes even the dialogue doesn't happen because like they're talking about what to play next. So you kind of have to push really hard push really hard like to do anything. And but I met a lot of interesting people then, and I think those memories were still like the fundamental of like New York memory. Meeting my heroes, musicians, going to Smalls and like see like Ari Hornick and Jean-Michel Pilk, trio, or David Binney and group at the 55 bar. Those things are so like still great memory. And wow, New York jazz. Yeah, this is New York jazz. That's what I thought.
It's like it's real.
and it was really intimidating because everyone is so good. Everyone is so good. And I was practicing and thought that, well, I need to contribute something that I can contribute, but maybe not other people can. There's something unique that I can contribute to this jazz community or to the community in a bigger sense. And then I thought that my Japanese roots is important thing to remember. So I started writing arrangements for Japanese melodies. And that became my second album. It's called Roots, but it's basically I arranged a lot of Japanese songs.
And that's in a sense, quintet like or a bigger band?
Yeah, quintets. I added guitar, so violin, guitar, piano, bass, and drums. And yeah, but I wanted to make the Japanese folk songs or Japanese songs in a way that's kind of more like a New York modern jazz sound that I hard when I moved here.
And then how was the response to that?
I think the response in the States was great. I had a lot of positive responses. I thought that my playing chops were not up to that music level that I composed. Like I still need to practice this music. It's pretty challenging thing to play. I still want to play them better someday, but it's pretty ambitious writing, I thought, and but in Japan, I don't know the response from Japan. I think in general, maybe Japanese people don't want to listen to Japanese folk song necessarily when you go to jazz club. They want to hear authentic jazz.
Right.
You know,
the purist.
Yeah, but that image is hard because if you're Japanese and playing in jazz clubs in Japan, and what's authentic?
Yeah.
You know, it's yeah, it's a different thing. I'm still thinking about it, and yeah, I think in the States, I think I feel that it's a little more, way more creative space, creative like openness here in jazz. I think
for innovation.
Innovation is very important in jazz, I think. But in Japan, maybe jazz is not born there, and they have maybe a little different definition.
Yeah, more of a historic.
General. Yeah. Like
yeah.
The music that was born in the States,
yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's
I'd love to hear a little bit more about your creative process. How do you write? How do you compose? What do you do? How do you get to your writing?
Yeah. Lately, I'm into storytelling. So I would pick a story that I really like. It could be folk tale or modern, novels, and then I put music to it. And now, like I'm thinking, I want to write something that I write story and then put music to it. I'm in the process. But before that, I think the melody that I get like is usually when I'm not playing my instrument. So that could be in the shower, or that could be when I'm walking after dropping my son off the school, and okay, I get my time now. And like
yes.
I have an emotional freedom that time, and then like my brain is a little more like clean and empty, and then that's the moment I get those melodies, and I take those melodies to the music. Yeah.
And then you record it into your phone, or you just run home and write it down?
Sometimes the voice memo is great. Yeah, I do that a lot. Like I would like singing into the phone and then take a memo. And I sometimes have a book that, I keep the ideas, and some ideas are very old and never get to develop to a song. But yeah, those are nice. I also sometimes use another thing would be like I would use looper pedal and just create something from it. And like some melody, and just record it on the looper and loop it, and then see what I can do from there. Yeah.
And then you write it on, you make a lead sheet, or do you orchestrate right away? Or it depends?
Oh, it's, yeah, sketch mostly, but no orchestration first. Just melody and bass line and maybe chord symbols, but usually the chorus comes later. The bass note comes first, yeah, to the melody. Yeah, melody first and then bass and the chorus last. And then, yeah.
Cool. And then you
Yeah.
conceptualize it and then you bring it to a band, or you have it pretty much ready and then the band will, or the people you select with. Do you play nowadays, you play your music with the same people, or you change the people up?
I usually play with the same people. Yeah, if they are available, of course.
Right.
Yeah. It's so hard to get people in a room sometimes. So that is why my sheet music is ready to play, ready to
Right.
perform. Otherwise, we don't have time to rehearse and try to figure out. I think that's too much. I mean, that's not too much. If you can do it, but you probably need to pay the musicians to do it, you know?
Yeah, to do extra rehearsals.
Yeah. So yeah, I usually have that pretty set in my head and be very specific. Yeah.
So tell me, what are you working on right now? So you're doing a little bit of teaching and you perform in other people's projects.
Yeah.
And then you write your own stuff. So how does that all work together? Or
yes, side woman thing is great because then I'm not worried about booking or promotion or anything, right? So just practice and show up and play. That's great, but that's not enough to have my creative output out all the time. I think you just need to constantly, right, be creative. You don't have to produce album every year, but still have to be creating something. And so right now I have this big project in mind for the next year that I want to do, and I made a timeline and everything, and I hope this will happen. But right now I'm in the state. I'm researching about that topic because next year is 80th anniversary of the nuclear bomb dropped in Japan, and so I wanted to create some music about that because it's very important to remember that. And my when my grandparents' generation passed away, it was like 2019. My grandma passed away, and that was the last generation in my family who experienced the war.
Right.
And then I thought that, wow, like all the people are gone now in my family. No one will talk about the war anymore. And then the world now is going to a turmoil. It's very, very difficult time. It's so uncertain, and it's very important to remember what happened, and so that we don't have to repeat that again. So I'm right now just researching what I can do with that and reading stuff, and
and that's gonna be a series of songs or an album or orchestral, or is it gonna be a bigger band, or you don't know yet?
I think it's gonna be the quintet that I've been doing, and then yeah, I don't know yet, but I have some some ideas to do it. I wanna do it effectively. So yeah, I'm thinking about it now.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I want to record a duo album with Glenn, my
Your
partner.
husband.
Yeah. Long overdue. We've been playing for a long time. I think 14 years now.
Wow. Are you together for 14 years then?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. Yeah. And so we've been playing duo for 14 years, but never recorded. So I think it's time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your relationship, because you're both working in music and now you also have a baby, or your kid is a little older already, right?
Yeah, not baby anymore. 4 years old. Yeah.
4 years old, running around.
Yeah.
How do you balance being a mom and a partner and both in music? It must be crazy schedules.
I know.
I mean, I'm so proud of you already. Balancing doing this, right?
I don't know if I'm balancing it, to be honest. Yeah, I'm so behind with my art, to be honest. That's how I feel. So I have to be honest, maybe when my son was 2 years old and 3 years old, this thing happens. I couldn't hear any music in my head. And that scared me so much. You know, like as a musician, you're constantly like singing in your head. Like,
there's stuff happening.
Yeah, whatever you're creating at the moment, or you're singing solos over some song, or even the song that you heard, you know, the day before, something is always singing, and it stopped. I couldn't hear, and it was so scary that I told Glenn about it, and wow, it didn't happen to me. He said, like, yeah, but I think, I don't know if it's fair to say, but I think that mothers have a lot to do when you have a child. Just because, I mean, I was breastfeeding for the longest time, and just your body was needed. You know, you need to be present. Like, you need to be in person with
emotional
the child
and physical.
Right. So we were so tight together, and also COVID made it even more intense. We had no help at the beginning because my son was born a week before. I mean, yeah, 1 week before the lockdown.
Oh, God.
In February 2020.
Right.
So that was intense. We don't have performances. I mean, Glenn has
no
some,
visitors.
but no visitors. No easy, you know, babysitting services. So
you stuck at home.
Yeah, I think Glenn got it harder on that one. Yeah, he had a little depression going. Yeah, but we made it through somehow. Just, I think, talking, honest feelings to each other, often, as often as you need it, is the key, I think, to make it. Like, if you just pretend it, then it's okay, like I can do this, and I'm not gonna even talk about it, and then I think you get a little this explosion of frustration one day. So we avoided that. I think it's challenging, but it's good to be communicative, and it's good for my son to also, you know, be communicative too. You know, like we have to be able to speak freely what we
Yeah.
feel while we care for each other. Yeah, and also I need to be away from my son sometimes so that I will, be responsible to my art, that I'm happy in general, and I can give the love, complete love to my son. It's important to not forget that you need to do what you need to do.
Yeah, that's so well put. Yeah, to keep that, to keep being open. I'm wondering, did the music come back to your mind?
Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yes. Well, luckily, I also had a few, work trips, like music trips, away from my son.
Traveling,
and then
right.
I just listened to music. Listening to music, I haven't done. Like, I was that busy.
Yeah.
So that was so great. And then it came back.
Beautiful.
That was a great feeling. We need music, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I love to switch gears a little bit, because obviously my album is with a bunch of women, and I love to ask this question: have you faced any stereotypes or biases as a female musician, and how do you challenge or overcome them?
Great question. I think I've had a lot of stereotypes and then bias while I was in Japan. When I was at the modern jazz society, working in the university, and I was also bartending, because that bar had a live music that I get to play sometimes with the guitarist. And then, so I was working there, but I was like 18, 19, and the customers are mostly like older Japanese men, like salaryman, and some of them were really rude, and they said things like, "Oh, you're trying to become a violinist now? It's too late. Stop. Like, you should stop now," or something like that. And they would take out my violin and play some songs with my violin in front of me, horribly. Like, they don't even play, but they're just like teasing me, and that things like that were like so common. Like, the Japanese young generation women would get things like that. Like, it's
belittling.
Or things like, "Oh, you should shave off your jawbone to have a nice smooth face line," or you should do a little plastic surgery, or something like that. Like, the man would say to me that I would be better off doing surgery like that. So that was a very difficult time. I hated it so much that I actually quit the job in the end. I didn't care if I could play in the bar or not. So that was really something that was terrible. Then I thought that, but I'm gonna prove myself that I can do it. The comment, like,
I
can
work
still
harder.
Yeah, exactly. And then I ended up becoming a jazz violinist. So I guess that kind of like biases could be a fuel, I think.
It could, yes.
Yeah, so I think you can utilize that for a positive outcome. And I think bias is hard to change it, because you can't really change a person. They have to change themselves, but you can change right now, right? So, like, I need to change myself, and I'm not gonna let that in my system, and I'm gonna prove that you're wrong, but not gonna say that to you, but I just do it, like that was my stance that time, and I think it worked. Yeah, I think yeah, I also women, being a woman thing, I usually not think, I don't think about it so much here. I guess that instant was so terrible that anything that I get in the States is not as bad.
It's minor.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's
You might not like
like this is great. Like everyone's equal. That's what I was feeling because it was so terrible back then.
Wow.
But I see sometimes that's not the case and it still needs to be improved. But I think it's improving. As long as I think the women are changing,
standing up for it.
Yeah.
Creating awareness. Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's important to be aware of it.
Yeah. What advice would you give young aspiring men or women who are just starting out their musical journey?
Trust your instinct. Yeah. And believe in yourself.
How do you do that?
Right?
How do you do it?
I think you need to sometimes shut off the clutters from the internet a little bit, and then just try to hear your voice, like what your heart is saying. And, I mean, music, you can get that from the internet. Okay, let's keep that music part going. But like the other stuff, like how to do stuff thing that you often see in the internet, like maybe you don't need those. You don't need to be told what to do, like just do it and figure out. I think there are too much information and too many great players you see all the time on the internet or social. But I think you need to believe in what you like and then develop from there.
Yeah, that's well put. I love to hear a little bit more about you as a performer. Can you think about or why do you perform, right? What does that give you? Any significant moment when you had an impact or how do you work with an audience, or do you just do your thing and then it comes, or how do you approach performing?
Yeah, I think live performance needs to happen to play music. Like it can't be in your own room just playing music, right? I think it's the this vibration of the spirit in the same room is carried through, and everyone's vibrating together. That thing can't really happen in the individual or isolated room. It's like a community place where you can share your stuff. Yeah, that's why it has to be a live performance with a live audience. Yeah, something about this like vibration together and giving your best, even though you're not perfect. Yeah, you just give your message and whatever you have at that moment. Yeah. Yeah. And I think live performance make me play differently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from the just feeling that room's, temperature and people's, feelings. Yeah, like you can try to include that, and I think it comes out. I think jazz is even more different, I think, in that sense, because it's improvised music, and so when you feel that energy from the audience, it just kind of comes out in the music, where maybe classical music or other type of music where the notes are always the same might not be as different. But yeah, so yeah, it's important to have the live performance.
Yeah. And then you as an educator, how do you approach, what's your approach to teaching? You teach a lot of kids, but also adults, I suppose. And then does your experience growing up influence how you teach kids now?
Oh yes, totally. I clearly remember what I was told, like when I was a kid, and how I felt that time. So I don't say the things that I felt awful about me. Definitely. So I try to I'm not saying only the great things about the students, but I try to teach them how to be their own teachers, so they figure out why that's not going well and how can you make it better. So I'm almost like a coach than a teacher. They're like, oh, why is that?
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, I can do this. And then they solve by themselves. And then they feel great because they did it by themselves. So I like that process better. And it works for the adults too.
Right.
Rather than you have to follow my way so that you can get better. Yeah.
Because you work at, you said Jazz House Kids, right?
Something changed.
Oh,
I hear you.
over here. I'll cut this out. Don't worry.
Okay.
So because you work at Jazz House Kids, right? And that's a group program, right? You have a bunch of kids in one room and they all have a little violin, or it's all different instruments, or how does that work?
It could be viola, cello, and bass. It's all strings. Yeah,
and they all play together. Wow.
Yeah, different ages. Yeah.
Okay.
From 12 years and up. So yeah. It's fun.
Amazing.
It's challenging to lead a group, such a big age group, but
right.
Yeah, it's been very fun, and I try to try to give so much energy that they have to give me back the energy to me. It's gonna have to be really open so that they are like, okay, I can do anything to her.
So
I want them
sounds
to
like
feel
one
that,
big party.
yeah, I want them to feel that they can play anything. There's no bad notes, because sometimes string learning, you're told to not do certain things, and in the classical world, so they're afraid of that. So I want to break the barrier so that they can just go for it.
Yeah. Amazing. And then with your son, is he doing music too?
He's learning violin.
Oh wow, on a small one, right?
Yeah, he's a 1/10, yeah.
Okay.
1/10 size. But I'm not teaching him actually. I hired a violin teacher, and yeah, he's getting
That's
violin
good.
lessons. I think it's healthier that way.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned a hard lesson.
Well, it's important to not, to have a little distance to it, so the
Yeah,
excitement can stay, right?
yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Anything you have coming up that you're excited about that you want to share? People should check out obviously your website and your albums.
Yeah. I have my quartet gig at the Bar Bayou on January 4th. It's gonna be for a while, but yeah. So
Oh,
I'm
that's
excited.
good. Yeah.
Yeah.
January 4th, Barbara. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah. Any other tours of other people you're tagging along with? Orchestras?
Next year in April, I will be in Toronto area for like a week. Yeah, like a jazz, Atlantic jazz nights thing, and I will be traveling with Aubrey Johnson and Jay Sawyer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That will be fun.
Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time and for being on the podcast. It's such a
so
pleasure.
much fun. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah.
And I recommend everybody check out your website, Instagram, wherever they can find. I'm sure it's on iTunes and Spotify and physical. You have probably I don't know. Do you have vinyl too?
Vinyl, only for the solo violin one.
Okay.
Yeah. The rest is CDs, cassette tapes on one of them.
You have a cassette? Whoa, that's so cool. It's hip again, right? Even Urban Outfitters, you can buy cassettes now.
Player? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, also I watched the film Perfect Days. Have you watched?
No. Is it good?
It's a great movie, but they feature these cassette tapes in that film. It's in Japan. The film is filmed in Japan.
Oh, cool.
It's a cool movie.
Cassettes are back. I cannot believe it.
I used to have tons of them.
Yeah, me too.
Your own mix, right?
That too. Yeah, you would just save.
And you have to flip around.
And the search for where it was and make sure that you're not like taping over the other stuff.
I know.
Yeah. I think I digitalized most of it by now, but well,
you did?
Back.
That must have taken long time, right?
Yeah, you wait and just like hook it up to the mini disc. I think I had a
mini disc. I still have those.
Yeah. That was a pain too. And then they expired. Yeah. We have to go through all this technology.
Yeah, I used to record on mini disc.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. I have hours of my conservatory lessons on mini disc.
Oh, wow.
Hilarious.
Yeah.
I would not know how to play it now because I don't think that device is working anyway. You know, it cannot. I'm sure it died.
The batteries are too old.
Yeah. So I don't know what to do. Maybe at some point Minidisc is coming back.
Yeah. Oh, I got CD player.
Yeah.
Walkman recently, so I can actually listen to real CD.
Old school. One of these big
Yeah.
See, we're so hipster. That's Brooklyn. Brooklyn's doing that to us. Yeah. Last question. How do you balance living abroad? Because obviously my family is all the way in the Netherlands and I work in Boston and I'm here in New York. So there's always this stuff going on. And now you have a family. How do you balance? Family.
Well, now my son started school, public school. So it's the schedule is very clear. Like he would have summer off, and that's when we go to Japan to visit my families, and actually he went to my kindergarten in Japan this summer. Yeah, so I'm gonna probably keep doing that every summer we go to Japan. So it's actually easier now to plan things. It used to be more like you actually need to sit down and think when you make a trip, but it's more.
With the school is more
clear.
organized.
Yeah.
Even though you might have to tour festivals in the summer, no? Or you can
that
decide.
happened in August this summer for me, tour in the States. So it didn't conflict. Yeah.
Yeah, just you schedule accordingly. Yeah. Yeah. That's great. Well, amazing to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And hope to see you soon. We're in the neighborhood.
I know. Let's get some coffee.
Do you go to Villager Coffee?
Oh, yes. That's the best.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I love them.
Yes. Well, great to see you. Say hi to Glenn.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, thank you so much.
We'll be in touch soon.
Yeah. So much fun.
Yes. Have a good day.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
As I conclude this episode of ViviTalks, I want to express my sincere gratitude for joining me in this musical journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and experiences of the incredible female musicians on my album. To stay updated on our latest episodes, subscribe to ViviTalks on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on social media through Vivienne, and please check out my album Type of Thing, a musical exchange featuring 100 female musicians to empower female cacao farmers of Virunga State Park in Congo. It's about more than just music. It's about making a positive impact in the world. Your support is part of that journey, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, keep celebrating the power of music, and let's continue to amplify the voices of remarkable women in the industry. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep the music flowing. With love and gratitude. Till soon.